Welcome back, everyone. You know, the moment the final whistle blew at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, the soccer world immediately turned its gaze toward a new horizon. One that is completely different, grander, more epic, and far more calculated than ever before. Welcome to the 2026 World Cup, a tournament that marks an irreversible, historic turning point for FIFA. For the first time ever, not one, not two, but three North American giants, the United States, Canada, and Mexico, are joining forces to co-host. For the first time, expanding from the familiar 32-team format, we will witness a massive influx of 48 national teams. On the surface, these numbers sound absolutely staggering and full of promise, don't they? The media is painting a glamorous picture of a soccer marvel, a vibrant festival lasting over a month and a half. But beneath all that glitz and massive scale, is the 2026 World Cup truly a pure sporting event? Or is it slowly morphing into a geopolitical gamble, a macroeconomic chess piece where the core values of the beautiful game are being compromised? Don't let the flashing lights or the promises of billion-dollar revenues fool you. Today, we are going to peel back those flawless layers to look deep into the shadows, the raw, unfiltered truths that few dare to speak out loud about the biggest tournament on the planet. You see, when the scale expands this abruptly, an invisible pressure weighs heavily on everything. It's not simply a matter of adding a few extra matches or tossing some mid-tier teams into the group stage just to squeeze out a little extra TV broadcast revenue. It is the total upheaval of a tournament structure that has existed, evolved, and operated smoothly for decades. We are talking about a colossal machine trying to jam oversized cogs into its engine. And when a system is forced into overdrive, the fatal cracks begin to surface. Let's start with the first gamble, which also happens to be the most glaring nightmare that players and fans alike will have to face: the monumental wall of logistics and travel. Have you ever pulled up a map and truly visualized the terrifying vastness of the North American continent? It's nothing like hopping from one stadium to another in Qatar, where you could leisurely catch a sleek subway train and reach your destination in under an hour. Not even close. Geographically speaking, the 2026 World Cup is an entirely different monster. The 16 host cities are scattered across three of the largest countries on the planet. We are talking about a footprint that stretches from the chilly shores of Canada straight through the bustling megacities of the United States, all the way down to the unforgiving highlands of Mexico. Put yourself in the shoes of a player for a second, and let's look at a realistic scenario. Imagine your team gets drawn into a group with a nightmarish travel schedule. For the first match, you play in Vancouver, on the west coast of Canada. The climate is cool and mild, and your circadian rhythm is locked into Pacific time. But just a few days later, for your second match, the draw algorithms send you flying all the way to the East Coast, down to Miami, Florida. That's a nearly 6-hour flight, crossing three different time zones, only to land in the suffocating humidity and sweltering heat of an American summer. Then, for the third do-or-die match, you have to pack your bags and board yet another plane, ascending to an altitude of over 7,200 feet, 2,200 meters, above sea level in Mexico City. Up there, the air is so thin that just sprinting a few dozen yards will leave even the healthiest lungs of elite athletes screaming for oxygen. Do you realize how brutal this is? This is no longer just a soccer tournament where teams compete on technical and tactical skills. This is a test of survival, a grueling battle of stamina, endurance, and superhuman adaptability. The players, who are expected to deliver the highest caliber of soccer, will now have to sacrifice a massive chunk of their invaluable recovery time, confined to commercial flights or chartered jets. They must constantly battle debilitating jet lag and try to force their bodies to adapt to 3 or 4 entirely contrasting climates within the brief 2-week window of the group stage. The 48-team format also dictates that to get their hands on that prestigious golden trophy, the two teams reaching the final will have to push themselves to the absolute limit across 8 matches, instead of the traditional 7 from previous World Cups. It might sound like just one extra match, but add those 90 minutes of extreme tension to thousands of miles of constant flying, compounding muscle fatigue, and drastically slashed recovery times. We have every right to raise a major question. When the semifinals or that historic final roll around, will we be marveling at magical feat showcasing the pure art of soccer? Or will we simply be watching ghosts wandering the pitch, trying to force heavy legs forward on their very last drops of reserve energy? But hold on. That is only looking at it from the perspective of the main characters on the pitch. What about the people who keep the soul of soccer alive day in and day out? The die-hard fans. The experience of following your national team at the 2026 World Cup will warp into a brutal economic equation that not everyone can solve. If you are a passionate fan from South America, Europe, or faraway Asia looking to follow your team through every round, you won't just be scrambling to hunt down a ticket to the stadium. You will need a massive budget for exorbitant airfare to fly back and forth between the US, Canada, and Mexico. You will have to bite the bullet and pay for hotel nights that have been marked up 3 or 4 times their usual rates in already incredibly expensive cities like New York, Los Angeles, or Toronto. The strain here isn't just on transportation infrastructure or stadiums. It's a heavy burden placed directly on the wallets of the most loyal fans. Soccer, from its very inception, has always been a working-class sport, a unifying thread that binds communities together regardless of wealth. But with the ballooning scale and unforgiving geographical distances of this World Cup, it is steadily being morphed into a luxury privilege reserved only for those with deep pockets. The Global Soccer Festival risks becoming an exclusive playground for the wealthy elite, where the most fiercely passionate but less affluent fans are marginalized, left to reluctantly cheer from behind TV screens back home. That is the very first gamble the organizers have decided to take, willingly sacrificing convenience, draining the physical health of the athletes, and severely limiting the general public's direct access, all in exchange for a colossal scale that is unprecedented in history. But is this costly gamble truly worth it? Are physical exhaustion and financial barriers the only things we should be worried about? The answer is not even close. Because the geographical and financial barriers are really just the outermost physical layer. The true crisis, the darkest hidden corner, only begins to reveal itself when we hit those invisible borders, borders heavily laden with rigid political power. When three nations with entirely different political ideologies, legal systems, and security protocols join forces to host an event drawing millions of international visitors, the complexities multiply exponentially. That is when we must pull back the next velvet curtain to confront an issue that is far thornier and much more terrifying. If you thought the exhaustion of flying thousands of miles was the biggest barrier, just wait until you actually have to stand in line at border control. For the first time in history, a World Cup is forcing fans and team entourages to constantly shuttle back and forth between three independent sovereign nations. This isn't Europe's Schengen area, where you can casually hop on a train and cross borders with little more than a nod from security. You are in North America, home to some of the most complex, politically sensitive, and heavily guarded border control systems on the planet. Let's focus specifically on the United States, the beating heart and the central powerhouse of this World Cup. Despite the flashy promotional videos touting a global soccer festival with open arms welcoming all ethnicities, America's immigration and homeland security policies have never been a joke, and there will certainly be no exceptions made for soccer. For tens or even hundreds of thousands of passionate fans from South America, the Middle East, or Africa, simply surviving the interview process to secure a U.S. visa is already a grueling and costly battle. But the true nightmare doesn't stop at the embassy doors. Once the tournament is underway, the heavy presence of law enforcement, particularly immigration and customs agencies like ICE in the U.S., at airports, transit hubs, and even around the stadiums, is bound to create an invisible but palpable atmosphere of tension. Instead of the joyous, unbridled freedom you'd expect from the biggest sporting festival on the planet, countless international fans will experience a suffocating reality. They will face constant scrutiny, surveillance, and demands for identification, and sometimes they will be subjected to baseless suspicion simply because of the color of their skin or the passport they hold. The intersection of a sporting event that symbolizes unity and a geographic region buckling under deep-seated political conflicts creates a bitter paradox. The complex and sensitive relationship, especially between the U.S. and Mexico regarding border issues, the border wall, and waves of immigration, cannot simply be erased or put on hold just because a soccer ball is rolling on a pitch for a few months. Since its inception, soccer was meant to tear down walls of prejudice, connecting strangers from vastly different cultures under a single shared heartbeat. Yet at the 2026 World Cup, we face a very real danger, witnessing these very geopolitical borders turn into tools of segregation, acting as barriers that fracture the fan community. The core gamble here is this: will FIFA's glamorous slogan of uniting the world be strong enough to paper over the political rifts and inequalities that exist right beneath their feet? Or will this tournament inadvertently become a massive magnifying glass, exposing to the entire world the glaring injustices surrounding the fundamental human right to freedom of movement? And that leads us to a pivotal question. Why? Why is FIFA so eager to bring the World Cup back to North America? Despite all the warnings about logistical nightmares, the physical exhaustion of the players, and the fierce criticism over a chaotic 48-team format. The truth is, for a machine this massive and cumbersome to run smoothly, it requires a colossal amount of fuel. And that fuel, make no mistake, is money. Welcome to the third hidden corner, and perhaps the darkest one yet, the unholy alliance between political power and ruthless commercialization. The answer to all the absurdities of this tournament lies squarely within the massive consumer market and the unrivaled power of North American capitalism. This time around, soccer is no longer viewed simply as a sport, a cultural heritage, or a source of national pride. It has been entirely mutated into a highly sophisticated entertainment product, designed not to please the fans, but to maximize profits for the elites at the very top. Everything comes down to money, from television broadcast rights worth tens of billions of dollars and lucrative, exclusive sponsorship deals with multinational corporations, to the ruthless exploitation that squeezes every last dime out of fans' wallets through absurdly inflated prices for lodging, food, and travel. Political leaders and local officials across the 16 host cities don't just see a sporting event. What they actually see is a giant money-printing machine, a golden opportunity to stimulate their economies, allocate budgets, and polish their own images on the international stage. In hushed, closed-door meetings, the handshakes between powerful bureaucrats and capitalist tycoons sealed the fate and shaped the very structure of this World Cup long before the first ball was ever kicked. The franchise model, a hallmark of American sports leagues like the NFL and NBA, is being aggressively imposed upon the World Cup, turning every fan experience into something formulaic, artificially sanitized, and absolutely reeking of money. What is the inevitable fallout of this gamble? It is that when money talks, the voices of soccer purists are instantly drowned out and silenced. You will see kickoff times completely scrambled, prioritized entirely around the primetime slots of major American pay TV networks, with absolutely zero regard for whether the players have to sweat it out under the scorching midday sun, or if fans in Asia and Europe have to pull all-nighters just to tune in. Look up at the stands. The best seats in the house will be flooded with VIPs, influencers, and corporate power players who are just there to check in and flaunt their status. Meanwhile, the core fan groups, the ones who bring the flags, the drums, the traditional chants, and the true heartbeat of the game, will be pushed up to the nosebleeds, the highest and furthest reaches of the stadium, simply because they cannot afford the exorbitant ticket prices. The very soul of soccer, the fierce passion, the spontaneity, and the pure, unconditional love for the sport is being ruthlessly packaged, branded, and auctioned off in North America. Can the glitz and glamour of flashy halftime shows ever compensate for this hollow emotional void? We will explore that answer in the next segment. We have covered the physical exhaustion, the border barriers, and the ruthless domination of money. But there is one final truth, a cultural mutation that will perhaps sting traditional soccer fans the most. Welcome to the final piece of the 2026 World Cup puzzle, the explosive collision between the American entertainment spectacle and the core traditional values of the beautiful game. Let's be fair here. The United States is the undisputed global master of staging colossal entertainment events. They know exactly how to transform a sporting match into a massive pop culture festival. Just look at the Super Bowl. Sometimes people don't even turn on the TV to watch two football teams throw a ball around. They tune in purely for the multi-million-dollar halftime show or to catch the most expensive commercials on the planet. But football, or as they call it soccer, beats to an entirely different drum. Soccer, in and of itself, is already a perfect drama. It doesn't need constant timeouts to cram in commercial breaks. It doesn't need scantily clad dancers or deafening fireworks every time there's a throw-in or a corner kick. Soccer is 90 minutes of relentless, uninterrupted tension. It is the rhythm of the ball gliding across the grass, perfectly synchronized with the beating hearts of tens of thousands of fans in the stands. The biggest concern here is that FIFA is actively trying to, quote, Americanize the World Cup. When you drop this tournament into the North American sports entertainment ecosystem, you face the very real danger of stripping away its true soul. Soccer fan culture is fiercely spontaneous. It is the traditional chants passed down from generation to generation, the deafening roars, and the sudden bursts of tears rolling down the cheeks of a blue-collar worker and a corporate executive sitting side by side in the same row. It is an emotion that is raw, unpolished, yet profoundly authentic. But organizers in North America have a tendency to want to control everything. They want to turn the stadium atmosphere into a meticulously directed reality TV show. Blaring electronic music will drown out the passionate chants of the ultras. Frivolous kiss cams and dance cams plastered across the massive jumbotrons will constantly disrupt the focus of the match. And as we discussed earlier, when tickets are priced purely to maximize profit, the stands won't be filled with die-hard fans willing to scream themselves hoarse for their nation's colors. Instead, they will be packed with VIPs who treat the stadium as a casual pastime, a place to post a selfie, eat a $20 hot dog, and rush out before the final whistle just to beat the traffic. A soccer match is not a Hollywood blockbuster. It doesn't need artificial special effects to be captivating. Trying to drape the beautiful game in a flashy, sequin-studded cape only makes it look ridiculous and alien in the eyes of those who treat the sport as a religion. That is the biggest, most monumental gamble FIFA is taking. They are betting that the allure of money, the sheer grandeur of the scale, and the relentless PR campaigns will be enough to overshadow all the inconveniences. They believe that the moment the ball officially rolls, fans will automatically forget the logistical nightmares, overlook the discrimination at border checkpoints, and obediently empty their wallets to pay for flashy spectacles slapped with a World Cup label. And they might just be right. Revenues will undoubtedly shatter every record. There will be dazzling financial reports and rounds of applause echoing through corporate boardrooms. Television viewership will likely hit unprecedented milestones, fueled by the relentless evolution of technology and social media. But at what cost? The price is the slow, silent erosion of that pure, unadulterated love for the game. It is the transformation of humanity's greatest sporting event into a luxury commodity. ripping it straight from the arms of the working-class people who have nurtured it for over a century. When the opening whistle of the 2026 World Cup blows at Azteca or MetLife Stadium, the entire world will undoubtedly still be watching. We will still scream our lungs out when our national teams score, and we will still be overcome with emotion by the unexpected Cinderella stories. Because the love for the beautiful game is something that cannot be easily extinguished. But deep down, when the stadium lights go out, when the fireworks fade and the revenue reports are filed away, we cannot help but wonder. Faced with a World Cup of unprecedented scale, stretching across 3 nations, featuring 48 teams, and backed by billion-dollar empires, will the true soul of soccer still be there? Or will it have been swallowed whole by geopolitical calculations, crushed by bottomless greed, and diluted by entertainment spectacles so flashy that they become entirely soulless? The 2026 World Cup is not just an expanded tournament. It is a do-or-die test of the sport's core values. It is a gamble where the absolute winners are the ones counting the cash, but the losers, tragically, might just be the billions of soccer fans across the planet. What about you? What are your thoughts on these hidden truths? Is this 48-team format and 3-nation expansion a monumental leap that will take soccer to new heights? Or is it a historic mistake that will kill the inherent magic of the game? Let me know what you think down in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so we can continue unpacking more hard-hitting topics together. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.